There is always resistance to challenging the status quo. Example. So I don't debate people. For years, these fucking assholes on the internet are like, debate me. Like, I'll pay you 10 grand if you debate me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, no. When you're perpetuating the status quo, you can use 2-3 words to get your point across. When you're challenging the status quo, you have to unpack the status quo and then provide a vision for the future and the alternative vision, right? So you are immediately in a losing position, right? Like you can't win that. There's no way. All of the work that anybody does that's challenging the status quo to build a more progressive, more social justice world is immediately confronted at every turn constantly with that type of resistance. It's a lot of like, how do you phrase things in a way that is accessible to the largest audience possible while retaining the core of what you're trying to say without dumbing down what you're trying to say, right? I loved what Bell Hooks was such a huge inspiration to me when I started, who talked about how she used pop culture in her classroom as a way to engage with students on issues of difference and transformative justice. She used accessible language, but she didn't ever reduce the she didn't ever simplify what she was saying, right? It's not like she had to make her concepts and her theories less intellectual. She just figured out a new way to say it. And I think for me, in the bulk of my work in the past has been a lot of like, how do I phrase things in a way that I can get the most people to understand or to hear me or to get on board, right? I spent a lot of time thinking about, there's this concept called the spectrum of allies. It's kind of like a half circle. And over here you have your closest, most ardent allies that will always be on board. And over here you have the people that want you to die and hate you and think you're the worst ever. And in the middle, you have the people on the fence. And I spent most of my career talking to these people, right? Because they're the people who could go one way or another, and that can create a larger sort of cultural shift, right? As we're talking about building a critical mass. And for them, there's a specific kind of language I would use to talk to them versus talking to people that are already on board, and I can use all the internal lingo and all the academic speak and all that kind of stuff, right? It's the preaching to the choir model. I don't know, that might have been a tangent, but I think about that a lot in terms of what are the challenges, like, and even in your workplace, right? You think about like, if you're trying to make change or like ERGs are trying to do stuff, like you have to think about how you present your message and how you talk about stuff. And you also have to understand that people are going to find you when they're ready. So you're planting seeds, right? Like you're just like, you know, if you share a little snippet here and there and somebody argues with you and whatever, and they come back 2 years later and they're like, oh, fuck, I know what you were talking about now. This happens to me all the time. I get so many messages from people who are like, well, I was a shitty Gamergator and I'm sorry and I know better now. And I think some of it is age. Like, not that Gamergate was only kids, but it's age. And it's also what we're talking about is this systemic shift that has happened over the last decade that, like, while we've had extremely regressive politics and an extreme backlash to the progress, we have seen a progressive shift. Like, let me tell you, in the middle of 2020, when like the big Black Lives Matter protests were erupting, hearing mainstream people say the word white supremacy was a fucking shock, because as like activists, we were using the word all the time, but we would not use it in like mixed company because people didn't understand that white supremacy wasn't just like Nazis, right? The fact that that is now mainstream and we're saying that word and we're talking about capitalism. It's not just the air we breathe. It is a system that could change potentially. Like, this shift is happening, right? And so remember, you're planting seeds, right? And even if you get frustrated, and even if you're like, oh, why don't you, like, whatever, there is an opportunity for them over time to come around and to see, you know, and be exposed to different ideas.